Hello, everybody. My name is Travis with Travis's Comic Haven, and today I have a special guest from SYD Studios. Is none other than Stephen Yu, who is the writer and creator of Joan. If you have not gotten a chance to read Joan, definitely go pick it up. It was fabulous to read. Stephen, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Could you start off by just kind of giving us a little bit of a background of you and what kind of got you started into comics?
Yeah, I mean that's a that's a loaded story. I guess maybe the earliest I could think about was buying like old Marvel comics back in like the late '80s, and I remember just seeing how just seeing those splash pages that those like old like Marvel comics would do, and I was like, yeah, I could do something like that, and it was kind of like, okay, I tried it, and it didn't work out. I was like 9 at the time, and then all of a sudden I kind of left that. But then I don't know, since 2010, 2011, my life went like a different direction. With just I was not going to school for arts at all, and I was like, okay, I think I need to like get back to making comics and in art. So yeah, and that's what brought me back into it. It's just going a different direction in my life.
Nice, nice. Now, what were some of your favorite books that you collected from Marvel or DC during that time? What were some of the books that really had your attention?
Yeah, the first few I could think of was from DC was I guess now it'd be considered Elseworlds. It was the Gotham by Gaslight. That was really awesome. I was like, it was self-contained too. I'm one of those people where reading manga can be tough for me because they go on for years. I think Blade of the Immortal went on for 22 years, 25 years. I can't commit to that. That's like impossible. But the Gotham by Gaslight was really cool. I think that's one of the appeals of like the what ifs and the Elseworlds is that it's self-contained. So Gotham by Gaslight was definitely the first, and then I think it was the Marvel Comics presents where Wolverine faces off against Cyber, and Sam Keith's art in that was like it was stunning. Like it's really weird. I'm drawn to really like gritty ink work, and you could. I mean, I love Jim Lee and those guys, but it was Sam Keith and was that Mark Texeira, his Sabretooth run, the miniseries. I just thought that was really cool. I was like, oh wow. And then I recently purchased, and tying back into your question, some of the stuff that he did for Ghost Rider too, Mark Texeira, and the art is just incredible. So when I look at stuff that's like that has heavy ink in there, that is really what inspired me.
Nice. So we met back on May 31st in Elkhart, Indiana, at the Hall of Heroes Con,
Mm.
and you sold me on Joan, and I brought it home and I read the first volume of it, and the artwork does it justice. The writing with it does the artwork justice.
Oh, thank you.
Could you maybe elaborate a little bit as to how you came to writing Joan?
Yeah, it started off. I was living in LA at that time, and it just didn't seem like anything was working out. I was like, everything I tried, it just seemed to either it would fall apart, or I was just getting tons and tons of rejections. And like a lot of indie creators, you want to kind of take that power back and put it in your own hands. So I was thinking to myself, okay, like what could I do? And I tried getting some internships as an art director. That didn't work out. It's just I was so influenced by Blade Runner, by Ridley Scott's work. I was just like, oh, I want to. I was almost doing this thing where I was like, I had a blueprint, and I guess his career was my blueprint. I was like, okay, I want to follow that. But then I realized real quick, I'm not really Scott at all, and I didn't get in, and I was sitting there. I was like, okay, like what can I do? And I thought about this other direction, which is why don't you make a film? Why don't you make a film, short film, and you can art direct it yourself. And at that time, I thought film was easy because, as an illustrator, as a comic book creator, you can write, you can draw. So film must be like that. Must be really easy to make. And there's no directors that ever had some mental health issues from directing the film. Like, I don't know any. So, and again, it was like pretty soon I found out, okay, this is like a lot of work. And, it, and the work was really stemming from like plotting, like having to play like that producer. And I was just like, yeah, this is like a lot of work. And then even the research too, I was like too bogged down in research. And what I was trying to do was a story about two knights facing off. It would be a duel. And I thought to myself, okay, these two knights that face off each other. I had an extensive background in martial arts, so I was like, okay, this is a chance for me to study medieval combat and see how I could like fuse some like Eastern fighting in there. And like I said, it didn't work out because I spent too much time researching it. And so one night, as I was like, okay, I just got to write this. So I remember it was like some evening of like 2016, 2017. I'm sitting in my apartment and I was like, I'm just going to start writing. So I started writing, and it was like two knights squaring off against each other. One knight pulls a sword out and the other pulls and automatically I just thought of M16. I was like, this is insane. And I started laughing as I was writing. I was like, this is like really crazy. And then I told a friend of mine the next day, and he said, well, it's got to be Joan of Arc pulling out the M16. And then I go, yeah, it has to be. It can't be anybody else, because that would be a really cool idea. It's like teenage. I can imagine like Eastman and Laird sitting there, and they're like, teenage mutant. We need to come up with a teenage mutant, and then Laird must have been like Ninja Turtles, and they're like, perfect, that's it, Ninja Turtles. So that's kind of how I felt. It was just like Joan of Arc with M16. It was really iconic in my head. It was just like this perfect like iconography, and I just ran with it. And for a while, it had nothing to do. I did like a short little comic, and nothing really to do with the history of Joan of Arc. It was just me making stuff up. And then by somewhere in the second chapter of writing volume one, that's when I was like, you know what, I ought to actually look into history and see what I can pull from that to create this like fantasy medieval Western world.
And
So
you did a phenomenal job of it, because I was reading it and I'm like, wait a minute, this is set back in like the medieval time and with the English monarch and stuff, and she comes back from the dead and she's given these abilities, and she can create any weapon at her disposal just like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, she's back in the medieval times with an M16? Like, this is awesome. Like, this is an infinite, unlimited ammunition. And it's like, this
yeah,
is awesome. And grenades
yeah,
and all kinds of stuff.
yeah.
And then when we spoke in back in May, I got volume two as well. And you
Hmm.
told me that volume two is going to play more into, like you said, doing the research and the history of how we got to this point.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
dead on with that. I read volume two just the other day in
Hmm.
preparation for this, and I loved it just like I loved volume one.
Oh, thanks, dude. I
Um,
appreciate
so, was there anything that you tried to do differently when you were doing volume two than you did with volume one?
it. Yeah. So, given my background in martial arts, and for a brief period in my life, I did try to play with this idea of being a stuntman. So a lot of my background actually is heavily immersed in like the martial arts world, and so I was in two films a while back. One was a independent feature length film that a friend of mine now he's passed away, but he was big in the stunt community. Dennis Rule. He really was the one who I felt like I owed a lot to, because he had taught me what it was to be a creator. It was funny. It was like watching him doing pickup shots, boring pickup shots that it's like no one would want to do. It's just he's trying to get to San Francisco because the movie takes place in two cities, San Francisco and Los Angeles, and none of the footage worked. I was like 10 hours that day hanging out with him, just getting stupid random pickup shots of skies, and only for it to not work out. And I said, "Man, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life." And he was like, "Pickup shots?" I was like, "No, dude, what you're doing, it's like, it's not glamorous. That's exactly what it's supposed to be. it's like when people look at a carpenter's work, they admire the woodwork, but no, I don't admire the woodwork. I admire the actual cutting, the measuring, I admire the process. So with the first book, it was very much all, it was like, okay, whatever is in this head, it's, years of this like experience of martial arts movies, martial arts, and all this is like, what do I do with that? And the first one was kind of just like this like raw elemental output of that. It was like I like whatever was in here, it had to be that angst had to be just channeled out there. By the second one, I wanted to tone it down. It's still batshit crazy, but I wanted to tone it down so that, or I should say, slow it down so that the story starts to come into play more. The little philosophical themes I've been trying to play with, and the second one is actually where I got editor Robert Romeo to help me out. I collaborate with him on many projects, but this one I wanted him to actually, because he was a filmmaker too, and a story writer, so I wanted him to actually be the story, I guess, the development editor, so he could see like how the story was going. And for the second one, I don't want to rush into this, feeling like it's just some like product to push out. And he was the one who helped me come up with this phrase. He was like, craft first, product second. So the second one was like, we took that time to like create the story. And so now we're working on a third one. And because of the work he helped me on the second one, I was like, oh, wow, the third one is just, it like flows a lot better now. So,
So with Joan, this is your artwork as well. It's not somebody else's.
no, it's all me.
That is the definition for me of gritty artwork. And I loved it. I love all the texture that you put behind it, the roughness of it,
Thank you.
um, the coloration. I love the little tag at the top saying that it's rated R. And then I'm like, why is it rated R? And I start reading it. And then you start getting to the fighting and everything. I'm like, oh, that's why it's rated R. And
Yeah.
that's not the language is thrown in there, it's the graphics in it.
Yeah.
Um, so how did you come across that type of art style? I know it's your own, but was there any like schooling to get to that, or was this all just natural to you?
Yeah, I mean, I took classes. You always hear the whole thing about like being self taught. I guess there's that, but I actually did take classes. I mean, my art school wasn't like the art school that someone have, where it's like immersive, like 4 year experience, and they're just like grinding away. For me, my grinding came from uh, it was, I remember back in like 2010, I was working a day job, and I remember just like sitting there going like, okay, I want to do something with my art. So it was a lot of like coming home after work, and I'd be at my drawing board for like 6 or 8 hours just working. And then I also remember I was like, whatever opportunity I had, whatever money I could scrounge up, I was just like, okay, I have to take a class. And I would do that. I would take like digital art classes. I would take like traditional art classes, watercolor, oils, whatever. And it's like whatever I could pick up, I was like, okay, that's it. But um, as far as the art style is concerned, I think for me that was more just I have very specific art styles that I tend to lean towards. Whereas like someone might really like that clean, polished 3D look. It's like it's fine. I think they're great, but like it's just not for me. I tend to lean more towards, yeah. If you have the American artists, you have people like Mark Teixeira, you have Sam Keith, um, but I also look at a lot of European Asian illustrators too as well. So I look at the works of well, Ashwood would be like Australian, and then you have like Nicholas Lemairy from like France, and then actually he's not European, he's American. Bill Watterson from Kelvin and Hobbes. Some of those panels that he did when it was like, I can't remember some of the characters, but I remember Kelvin as like a private eye. Kelvin has like this like space, like hero. A lot of that was like heavy inks, and I was like, oh wow, where does this come from? Um, and so yeah, I was like from there. I just kind of like I think I knew what my influences were, and I proudly wore their influence on my sleeve, and I was like, okay, this is like in the pocket that I want to stay in. So I think I was reading something about Paul Pope. He was did something for like a Star Wars anniversary thing. It was a Star Wars project, and they hired him, and they were like, kind of want to see these like polished style art. And I think he said something like, "Look, man, I deal directly in ink, and this is how I illustrate. I will be an inkhead forever, for the rest of my life. So just expect this style when I do stuff." And I was like, I just love how um, they're so honest about their style, and that's kind of what I lean towards. It's just the honesty, the integrity of the style.
And I think you mentioned it before, about being an independent creator and having the rights to your own stuff. So, with that being said, if an opportunity came to go to a DC, a Marvel, an Image, or a Ghost Machine, would you accept that offer depending on what the terms were? And if
Yeah.
you were to go to one of those companies, what would be some of the projects that you would want to work on?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I am open to being published by like some major publisher. I've never really been against that. I think maybe when I was a little bit younger, I probably would say some pretty gnarly things about like F the man, whatever. But I don't have a problem with that. I For me, it's more about I want to finish what I'm doing, and then we'll see where we go. And it can be tough because I know that sometimes when you go to certain publishers, they may want you to change some stuff in your book. That might be a problem. But yeah, it would just depend on the terms. As far as projects, I would love to do anything where I can take some characters and do kind of my own spin on them. I've been playing around with this Wolverine and Jubilee idea for like the longest time, and I was thinking it'd be uh, the basic premise of Leon the Professional, but you mix it with Korean action cinema style like storytelling. In the same vein of something like The Man from Nowhere, the action style of like City of Violence, like that style of action storytelling. And I was like, I could see that potential with Jubilee and Wolverine. Um, Jubilee, I don't know. People have done some strange things with their character, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But I kind of want to take that character and see, okay, let's stick with the firecracker abilities. And let's have Wolverine be Wolverine, but let's see what happens when you have this like gritty, almost punk esque take on this Wolverine and Jubilee dynamic. And let's see what direction that would go. And it would be really cool because I probably would have it take place in Asia. And um, I'd be able like to draw those like cityscapes, be able to draw like just like streetwear. I just imagine this very urban, gritty, yeah, like an Asian action film version of Wolverine and Jubilee. Yeah, I would love to work on that. That'd be so awesome.
That,
Um, or like a Ninja Turtle story. I do like a story all about Splinter and Shredder. I think that'd be really cool.
like almost like do a backstory on them.
Yeah. Nate Johns having to do this cover for his book. Oop, the plastic sleeve is killing it.
There you
It's
go.
called Players,
Yeah.
and he's seen because on my other account I have my IG account. I have Ink and Paws art, and on my Ink and Paws is like my love for my cats and ink work that I do. So there's another piece that I was like working on recently of my cat Shinji. And so I was like, okay. When Nate hired me to do the variant cover for his comic, he saw what I do with like these like fox drawings, like fox swordsman style drawings, And he's like, "Oh, dude, your stuff would be perfect for the variant cover." I was like, "Oh, thanks." And then as I'm working on it, I was thinking to myself, I was like, "Wait a minute, this would be a cool like Shredder versus Splinter like story style." And I just thought about I don't and maybe I don't know I probably wouldn't make it feudal Japan. I probably would have it take place in like ancient China. It's like what would a Chinese like Ninja Turtles be like? You know, it's just I don't know. It's just I think the turtles are like that. It's just like here is this template of these characters. Here's their archetypes, and then you can like play with them like however you want. Also, like drawing like flowy robes and all that kind of stuff. So that's why like when I draw Joan, I always draw her with a cape because it's just
Hmm.
so much fun to draw. So I think any of the characters that kind of lean towards that like Eastern martial arts thing, that vibe, and then characters with a lot of like flowing robes. I mean, Batman Spawn definitely would be like an example of that, you know. But I would do some cool fantasy style like action storytelling with those characters.
Nice. Now, do you have any other projects going on right now other than possibly more Joan coming?
Yeah, I'm working on two projects right now. One is well, there's a lot of projects, but one of them is Throne. It's for Aaron Toney, who has been developing this like futuristic sci-fi outlaw king story. Aaron Toney is a stunt coordinator and former stunt double for Anthony Mackie and Chadwick Boseman on the Marvel films, and so he's been developing this project for like the longest time. So anyway, I'm like knee deep in it, um, and the other project is David Young's Kraken story. It's kind of like Aliens, but meets like Fantastic Voyage, that kind of story.
Hmm.
So I've been working on that, developing it too. Co-writer on that is the guy who wrote Terminator 3, uh, Teddy Serafian. I never get his name right. My apologies. But I've been working on their projects, and it's really fun. It's just like fun to like develop all these like different ideas, and then be able to just like do this like heavy ink like work on these projects. So yeah, I've been developing that, and then hopefully it can be done by this year, and then we'll get them out there, and then just see what like happens next year. So yeah, and then a couple commissions, and that's about it. So
So I know a lot of different artists and creators are different in their writing and their art processes, especially with multiple projects. So how do you stay in tune with the two different projects, working on them at the same time? Like, is there a way that you like, okay, I'll devote the first set of days of the week for this project and the latter half of the week for the other project, or do you just keep bouncing
yeah,
back and forth throughout the whole day? Or
yeah, that's tough for me. I tried that before, and it sucks. um, so what I do is I tend to give it that day. That day will be the focus is to do this. Like when I was working on Throne, I haven't told never Tony this. It's funny. I'm just saying this out loud right now. But there are two pages I was working on, and I was like, yeah, there's no room to work on anything else today because these two pages need a lot of attention. And I think I clocked like 25 hours working on those two pages and not sleeping very well because
mm,
I was like upset. Like it was my fault. I was like trying to figure out. Normally, what I do is I pick the pages that are easiest first and get them out of the way. But then the stuff that's more involved, anything to do with hardware, like architecture, those usually require just a lot of time because you have to line up the perspective and stuff. So what I should have done was like what I normally do is I pick the easiest ones to tackle first, and then I spend like the whole day working on. But that those two pages working on for Throne was like crazy. It was just like okay, I just got really locked in. I was like every time I made what I thought was progress, it'd be like 5 hours later. I was like okay, I'm done, right? And I sit down and go, yeah, I'm done, right? I am. Am I? And I'm like, well, no, because if I'm thinking like that, I have to go back to it. So yeah. Yeah, stuff like that is like when I get it right, that's usually when I'm okay and I can like move on to like the next thing. So but as far as like Joan's concerned, Joan's been more like I give it like 2 days. So usually it'd be like Friday and Saturdays that I'll work on it. And it'll be like a chunk of time. We're looking at like 5 or 6 hours that I'll be working on it. So, but if I have more time, then yeah, I can go like, 5 days on Joan.
Nice. Um, so we talked about what comics kind of inspired you to get your start. Do you still collect any current titles that are running today?
It's been kind of all over the place only because I have been collecting more independent comics. And It's been more me leaning towards the art that I like and the stories that I like. So I thought I had it out here, but when I was in Pittsburgh, so right after Hall of Heroes, I went to Pittsburgh and did Three Rivers. And uh, while I was in Pittsburgh, my friend Nate took me to a comic book shop, Doom Planet, and they had like just this wild assortment of comics there. And the guy that was running it was like an artist too, so he was like, he knew about comics, but he also like was an art lover, so he had all these like art books there. And anyway, I was there and I picked up two horror mangas. One of them is called Inky. The other one I don't remember, has a long title, but Inky is cool. It's about this princess who has this sword, and it has like the souls of her dead sister and dead brother in this like sword. But like I guess it's also demonic, so it's also kind of like messing with her. Um, and The fight scenes and everything, like the gore is like absolutely gorgeous to look at. But the thing is that which makes it even more interesting is that it's handcrafted. It's not digital; it's all just hand inked, and it's black and white, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. It looks nothing like manga that's out there right now. There's no screen tones, nobody cutting things, nobody doing any digital processing through anything. It's just like it looked like they had like watercolor paper and then they were just drawing and then they like did like ink wash on it. So but that's been kind of where I'm leaning towards now, is like when I see like ink that I really like, I tend to like gravitate towards it. For a while I was getting into uh I collected One Dark Knight, like the entire series by Jock, because I thought that was like really cool, just the concept alone. And Jock's art is like, yeah, it's another dude that I like really admire, like his work. So yeah, sorry I didn't answer the question directly.
You did. You did.
Okay.
I was more so asking if you were into collecting any Marvel or DC titles or Image titles, but if that's something that you're not collecting, you still
Mhm.
answered it with what you do
Okay.
collect to this day. So that it was fine. It was fine.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean that's awesome. I've really ran through all my questions already, and you answered them very well. I do want to promote for you that you do have a convention coming up this weekend if you're still going.
Yeah.
That's going to be the Silver Age Convention
Yeah.
in Reno, and that's going to be this weekend, July 12th and 13th. So
Mhm.
if anybody watching is going to be in Reno and is going to go to the Silver Age Con, please go see Steven, pick up a copy of Joan and have a nice little conversation with him. Uh, love your work, and I'm going to keep an eye on it and get your newsletter and wait for more of your stuff to come out and put it on my platform as well.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
Not a
Yeah,
problem.
if you guys want to sign up for my newsletter, it's at SYD Studio Presents. So Sid Studio Presents. And also on my website, sidstudiopresents.com. On my website, there's also a listing of all the shows I'm going to this year. So yeah, check it out.
Thank you very much, Steven. You enjoy your weekend.
You too. Thanks, man.